you feel like a victim. There's a villain. This was not what you'd planned for. This was a unilateral decision, and here you are. And now what do you do with that? You have adult children or grandchildren or sometimes children at home and aging parents. And there's so much more to it than just, oh, I'm getting a divorce. Right. And people don't understand it. And then I designed a program that was very specific to this experience. Women who were blindsided, they're over 50, they've been married for decades.
Has your life, your dreams been interrupted? Good news. It is possible to reinvent our lives. People are doing it every day, and some are brave enough to share the struggles, disappointments, and challenges. If you are looking for a new beginning, a do-over, or to rediscover your passion, maybe even find a new one, then grab a cup of coffee and let's talk. Interrupted, Act 2, Reinventing Your Legacy, with your host, Coach Lori.
Beth Carroll is a coach, among other things. I'm so glad to have you with us today.
Thank you so much, Lori. I'm so glad to be here.
Well, I'm so intrigued by your story, but first let's start with your coaching practice, what you do and what you love about it.
I am a divorce recovery coach for women in midlife who have been blindsided by divorce. They've been married for 20, 30, 40 years, and all of a sudden their husband basically says, I'm done, and moves out. So I help them navigate all of that disruption and trauma and get back on their feet to living a life that they love and that they're excited about.
I wish you would have been around when I went through my divorce.
Oh, yeah. And I love it. I love the change that we can create in not that long of a time. I love the transformation. And I just love being part of that, helping you go from complete desperation and desolation and doom spiraling of thinking and obsessing about what happened and why this happened to living again. We're not too old.
And life has to go on. That's the hard thing. And some people, when this happens, they're left with nothing and they have to figure out a job. And so there's so many layers to this kind of work.
Very true. There's a lot, and it's not what you planned for. It's not how you thought this was going to go, which can just cause you to completely stop and fold in on yourself. Totally normal.
Yeah. And even if it wasn't a great marriage, still, there's a lot to deal with. It's like people sometimes go, well, they're free now. It's like, well, it's so much more than that.
It really is. And you feel like a victim. There's a villain. This was not what you'd planned for. This was a unilateral decision. And here you are. And now what do you do with that? You have adult children or grandchildren or sometimes children at home and aging parents. And there's so much more to it than just, oh, I'm getting a divorce.
Right.
And people don't understand it.
No. And when I went through my divorce, it was over 25 years ago now, but it was really hard. I was a Christian. I went to church, and there really wasn't even support at church at that point. I just kind of didn't know how to navigate. I knew I had to get to work. I knew I had to figure things out. To think a little later in my life is when I became a coach and got a coach. Well, I had become a coach, but I didn't really, at that point, we didn't have internet. So I didn't have money. So I didn't really have access to hire a coach. But as time went on, I just saw the value of transition with coaching, because having somebody walk through it with you, I had so much shame and embarrassment that I felt like I didn't deserve a good life.
Exactly. And the shame is what really keeps us down, and it can keep you stuck, and you're positive it's your fault. Somehow you caused this. Somehow you aren't worthy of love. This is what you deserve. And all of that shame just keeps you down, non-functional. It's hard to parent. It's hard to live. A lot of people then also exhaust their friends and family because it is all that you can talk about. You just go over it and over it and over it, trying to understand why this happened. How could this have happened? Because it is such a shock and trauma to your system.
Yeah, that's so true. So you have a story. You had an interruption. You want to tell us about that?
I did have an interruption. Well, this is what happened to me. I'd been married for 25 years, planning my 25th anniversary. My father had just passed away pretty suddenly from a very rare and aggressive cancer. And my husband came home and said, I'm done. I'm done. I don't want to be married anymore. And that was pretty much it. So I had a 16-year-old still at home. I had a 21-year-old who had just transferred to a new college, and they were dealing with their own stuff, plus the grief of their grandfather dying. And I stayed very strong on the outside, and I stopped sleeping, stopped eating, and on the inside was completely non-functional. I went and I had my mom too, dealing with the grief of my father. So there was a lot going on in my life when this happened, and I could not understand how he could have done this. All the blame, all of the embarrassment. I didn't really talk about it. There were some people I didn't tell for almost a year. Yeah. So it stopped me cold, and we were headed towards empty nest. We were headed towards retirement. We were looking at all of these things and had all of these plans. And there was no sign in anything that he was intending to do this, which made it worse. Yeah. So I went right to therapy. That's the first thing I did is I dove right into therapy. And I was at my therapist's office. I kept rehashing why. And she finally said to me, what if you never understand why? And it really stopped me in my tracks of, oh my gosh, I might never understand this. And I felt incredibly defeated. And she gave me a sheet of paper and with a whole bunch of self-care tips on it. And the first one was take a warm bath. And I left her office that day just feeling hopeless and dejected, and that I was never going to understand this. I was never going to get better. So that is when I started, like on my drive home, I had a half-hour drive home, and I was thinking, okay, no, this happens to other people. There is something else that I haven't figured out yet. And I started researching and searching the internet at night when I wasn't sleeping anyway. Yeah, I found a subconscious reprogramming and somatic work, and I got a coach. I got my life back.
Were you working
Yeah.
at the time?
Well, I was working in my husband's family business. So when he left, I lost my identity as wife and I lost my job. So it was, yeah, no. So I technically wasn't, I tried to work for a little bit longer, but he pushed me out as quickly as he could after that.
Yeah. Can we talk about that identity thing? Because who am I now? Like you're not a daughter. Well, you are because you still have your mom, but your kids are leaving. You not have your job. You're not a wife. How did you cope with all of that?
It's shocking. I can't think of a better word than the shock of losing that. And we headed right into the pandemic after that. And then I actually lost my mom during the pandemic. I did lose identity of daughter at that point. We're not 25. We've spent so many years in our marriage, whether it was a great marriage or a marriage that was struggling with all of the ups and downs. We'd made it 25 years. We'd been together for 30 years, and that's gone. And my identity of working for the company and all of the people that knew me in that role was gone. And watching my kids get ready to leave and trying to be supportive for them. So the identity of mom is the only thing that stayed for me. It can really shut you down. You really need to dig in and start to understand what else is there and see the possibilities and change the way you believe and you think about things so that you start to see opportunity and possibility instead of just complete desolation.
So what was your journey back to you like? You got a coach, you said.
Yes, it was hard work, but I felt very supported by my friends and my family too. And the change as I started to understand all of the beliefs that I carried for so long that I didn't even recognize, that just all of a sudden, right back up to the surface. I deserve this. I'm not good enough. People leave me. The victimization I felt. And as I started working very methodically through what I was experiencing and changing those beliefs and releasing the trauma from my body, I really started to feel calm and I started to feel more settled. And I remember it was during COVID when I was in the kitchen and my kids were doing their schoolwork, the remote school at the table. I realized we hadn't talked about him at all that day. And I hadn't even thought about him. And I just remember that moment of, wow, like I am actually rewiring things. Things are changing, things are settling. This is possible. I think this might work. And it was very profound and very encouraging. And I just kept going and kept working through things and really believing that this would work for me. And it did. And it also was so much better for my kids. I mean, one of the first things they said to me when I really started feeling better was, "Oh my God, Mom, you're back. We have our mom back." And that was, it was just rewarding and encouraging and all of those things. And I hadn't realized, I thought I'd been doing so well and trying so hard, but I hadn't realized how much they were affected also by my pain.
Yeah, we think we're protecting them, and
Right.
yeah, it's tough. You started feeling better, getting back in a kind of a routine, and then is that when you became a coach?
I can't remember how soon after, but as I was trying to figure out what's next was, and I had ideas, but yeah, I loved it. And I all of a sudden realized that everybody needed to know how to do this. Everybody needed to go through this process. So yes, I became certified in the in the subconscious reprogramming, and I learned how to do the somatic work and the embodied processing work. And then I designed a program that was very specific to this experience. Women who were blindsided, they're over 50, they've been married for decades. And a lot of the programming that I went through was very broad brush, divorce, and pieces of it talked about if you were the one that caused it or you're the one that walked away. And I wanted to get all of that language out and get it very focused on what you experience when you are abandoned or left behind or whatever your language is to describe the trauma. So after I became certified in the methodology, I then wrote the program that spoke specifically to these pain points and this experience. I love it.
That's so amazing. Do you have groups? Do you do one-on-one? What's your program like?
I primarily do one-on-one coaching. I have a VIP one-on-one coaching program that lasts about 4 months, and it includes a lot of time with me. And I also have a program to follow with videos and written and homework and a very specific process to follow. And it goes in order where we tackle all kinds of things: your guilt, your regret, forgiving yourself, figuring out what's next. All different levels are involved in it that really can get you through to the other side of all of this pain. And I also do a lot of custom work. I have specific modules for if there's another woman, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with your kids' relationships with that? I have modules for what happens when you're going along and then all of a sudden your husband moves back to the town that you've moved to, or your ex-husband tries to come back after his ex leaves. So I have a lot of different scenarios and programs that work for this experience.
I feel like there's so much confusion.
Yes, exactly. It's very disorienting. You're not sure where to start. And there is that underlying feeling that somehow this was meant for you. Somehow you deserved this. Mm-hmm. And it really, the shame of it and the embarrassment, I was left, I was abandoned, all of that really can keep you stuck.
I remember for me, I don't know why, I think people have things that are harder or more significant, but taking off my ring, I don't know what it was, but it made me feel so vulnerable. Like here I am, this woman with 3 kids and no wedding ring and worried about being judged or whatever. I don't know, but I just remember that being so difficult.
Yes. And people don't really know what to say. Like, should I say that he left? Should I just say that we're getting divorced and act like I'm fine with it? There's such a shame there in explaining what happened. And yeah, taking that ring off is hard. And I usually recommend going out and getting another piece of jewelry or a ring that you can wear either in place of it or on your opposite hand. That sort of is your ring that stands for you and that you've still got you and you can hold on to that.
I was chatting with somebody today that was also a single mom, and she said how it's been a few years now, and she said, I really enjoy being alone. I enjoy my time. And then 2 days before that, I interviewed a woman whose two husbands had actually passed away.
Oh,
And
wow.
she married a third time in her 60s. And she said, I love to be married. I just love to be married. And I thought, what a contrast to be able to go, well, what do I want? What feels good to me? Because people would always say, well, when you're not looking is when he'll show up. I had 3 kids. I was not going to date while they were still in school. And so I wasn't looking, but then people say things
Sure.
like that. And it's almost like it's almost, I feel like they're saying, well, you were so desperate. You couldn't meet anyone. And the thing was, I was too busy and I was too
Right.
dedicated to, I didn't want to there was enough drama in their lives. I didn't want to bring in another person. I wanted them to have
Sure.
their high school experience. So,
Sure. That was your choice,
yeah, but
you
I
know?
struggled with that. Like something was wrong with me. Like, oh, and people, do you notice that people always go, well, it's when you're not looking. And I'm like, I really haven't been looking most of these last 20 years and no one's knocking down my door, but also I'm
Right.
not looking.
Right. Right. You know what you want, and
Mhm.
that's good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think people think that you'll be happier if you have somebody else. And I have clients that come to me sometimes 4 months after their husband has left, and sometimes 4 years. And sometimes they've tried to date to immediately to fill in that space. And their nervous system is so dysregulated. They attract the exact same thing and sometimes worse because of that desperation, and they haven't spent time healing and recovering from
Mhm.
that traumatic experience of being, I mean, people describe it as kicked to the curb or left behind, replaced, all of that. I think that's part of it, is that people think you can't be happy on your own. But if that's what you choose, you absolutely can be.
There is a big value and an opportunity in getting to enjoy yourself and
Yes,
be alone and do what you want for a while and see what that's like. Because we have seen that people end up with the same person
they
if
do.
they don't get healing. And
Yes. And there's a great power in knowing that no matter what is coming, you are okay on your own. You
yeah,
can do this. You can fix the things in the house or fix the car, or the little things that you don't even think about that can totally just bury somebody after this happens. You can do all that. And there is such a growth and I can't even, it's just such a great feeling to know I've got this. I can buy my own house. I can
hmm
do all of these things and I'm going to be okay.
yeah. I remember my kids had come in, they'd be playing outside and they'd say, hey, mom, like, can you make a holster for this stick I'm carrying? And I'm like, sure, like,
Yeah,
whatever, we'll figure it out.
100%. And then you do it, and all of a sudden you've shown yourself proof that you can do this. And it
Yeah.
only goes up from there. Yeah, that's amazing.
Well, this has been so great. I know you have a website. Is that how people work with you?
It's Beth Carroll, which is Carroll, coaching.com. And I have an Instagram presence, which is at Beth Carroll Coaching as well.
Well, this has been so great. But before we go, what is it that you really, really want us to know?
If this happens, if suddenly the rug is pulled out from under you in your marriage and in your life, there is so much possibility waiting for you. And you need to do the work to get back to yourself and figure out your what's next. But it is 100% possible. I believe in you. I believe in your ability to heal and move into something that could really be fabulous, even though it's really, really hard to picture that right now.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I think about how you have to walk through the process, but then when you get to the other side and your kids are like, you're back.
Yes. And clients say to me, I find myself smiling more. I find myself feeling relaxed. I'm feeling things I haven't felt in years. I'm laughing. I'm not saying no to things, all of that. It's waiting. It's possible. It's just, we got to get through what happened. It's
Yeah,
not that they leave, it is how they leave that sets you back.
that's so good. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lori. This was a pleasure.
If you love this podcast, here's a big ask. Will you share with your friends and family, subscribe, give us a review, and a 5-star rating so that others looking to reinvent their lives will be able to get the help they're looking for? Thank you in advance.